For 2,300 years, humanity has chased a phantom, an empire of golden spires and godlike technology, swallowed by the sea. A civilization called Atlantis. Plato called it a warning. Archaeologists call it a myth. But what if it was both? This is the story of a utopia that conquered continents and the cataclysm that erased it in a single night. A story that asks, did we invent Atlantis to scare ourselves, or did Atlantis invent us? Plato's tale is precise. 9,000 years before Athens, Atlantis ruled. Its engineers bent nature to their will. Its armies enslaved nations. Its kings mocked the gods. Then, punishment. Earthquakes tore its mountains apart. Oceans roared into its streets. And a beacon of human ambition sank into eternal darkness. But here's the mystery: why would a philosopher risk his credibility with a children's story about a sunken city? Unless it wasn't a story at all. This isn't just about myth. It's a global manhunt for truth. We'll join historians dissecting Plato's words like ancient DNA. Is his Atlantis a veiled critique of Athenian greed? A coded memory of the Minoans, whose island empire drowned in volcanic fire? We'll dive with robots probing the Atlantic's abyss, where sonar has glimpsed unnatural shapes on the ocean floor. We'll confront theorists who claim Atlantis was a prehistoric superculture, one that mastered energy we've yet to rediscover. But beneath the science lies a darker question: why does this legend terrify us? Is it the fear that greatness isn't enough, or the dread that someday we'll vanish too? To unravel Atlantis, we must start where it all began, not with ruins, but with words. The fragile papyrus scrolls where Plato, 2,400 years ago, weaponized a story so vivid, it outlived empires. What did he really describe? A moral fable? A buried history? Or a prophecy? The answer lies in two of Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. And in their pages, Atlantis doesn't just rise, it judges us. In the halls of Plato's tale of Atlantis is one of the most enduring and enigmatic legends of the ancient world. Found within his dialogues, the Timaeus and the Critias, the story speaks of a mighty civilization that existed some 9,000 years before his time. According to his account, the tale was passed down from the Egyptian priests of Sais to Solon, the Athenian statesman, who then relayed it to his descendant Critias, and from him, it ultimately reached Plato himself. Atlantis, as described in Timaeus, lay beyond the Pillars of Heracles, now known as the Strait of Gibraltar. It was a vast and powerful empire, larger than Libya and Asia combined, a land of extraordinary wealth and technological sophistication. The Atlanteans, descendants of the god Poseidon and a mortal woman named Cleito, ruled over this island paradise with wisdom and strength. Their capital, an awe-inspiring marvel of engineering, was built in concentric rings of land and water, each ring fortified and adorned with grand temples, towering palaces, and colossal golden statues. At the heart of this magnificent city stood the great temple of Poseidon, encased in orichalcum, a mysterious metal that gleamed with an otherworldly reddish-golden hue. In Critias, the account delves deeper into the history and culture of Atlantis, revealing a civilization at the peak of its power. The island was divided into 10 regions, each governed by one of Poseidon's 10 sons. They thrived in agriculture, architecture, and military prowess, excelling in arts, sciences, and philosophy. Their fertile plains were irrigated by an intricate canal system, their cities protected by formidable walls, and their naval fleet unmatched, enabling them to conquer vast territories across Europe and Africa. Their economy flourished, driven by a sophisticated trade network that extended across continents, their wealth accumulating in ways unparalleled in the ancient world. Yet, despite its grandeur, Atlantis was doomed. The Atlanteans, once noble and virtuous, grew arrogant and corrupt. Their thirst for power overshadowed their wisdom, and their empire turned to conquest. They launched an immense invasion, stretching their reach far and wide, even daring to challenge the might of Athens itself. But the Athenians, though fewer in number, were resolute. They stood against the Atlantean forces with sheer courage and, as Plato suggests, divine favor. The war raged on, a brutal conflict that tested the limits of both civilizations. Athens, through strategy and resilience, repelled the Atlanteans, forcing them into retreat. But their defeat on the battlefield was only a prelude to a far greater disaster. Then came the cataclysm. A single, apocalyptic day and night of earthquakes and floods brought Atlantis to its knees. The ground split apart, the sea churned with fury, and colossal waves engulfed the once prosperous empire. In mere hours, the island was swallowed by the sea, vanishing beneath the waves, leaving behind only myths and scattered memories. What had once been a beacon of civilization became nothing more than a legend, a whisper carried by the winds of time. But was Atlantis real, or was it merely an allegory? Plato never explicitly stated it was a fable. On the contrary, he insisted that it was a true account. Was he warning of the dangers of hubris, illustrating the fall of a civilization that, like so many before and after, succumbed to its own excesses? Or was he preserving the memory of a real, prehistoric culture lost to history? Some theories suggest that Atlantis was not merely a single island but a vast network of interconnected settlements, an empire stretching far beyond what Plato described. Could its destruction have been caused by a natural catastrophe, a volcanic eruption, or a sudden rise in sea levels? For centuries, scholars, historians, and adventurers have debated the reality of Atlantis. Some believe it to be a distorted memory of the Minoan civilization, destroyed by the eruption of Thera. Others have sought its remnants in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean, and even Antarctica. Some speculate that traces of Atlantis may exist in submerged ruins off the coasts of Spain, Morocco, or the Bahamas, where curious formations hint at the possibility of an ancient, lost civilization. Theories abound, yet despite all efforts, the city remains elusive, forever lost in time. The words of Plato still echo through history, a riddle wrapped in mystery, urging humanity to seek knowledge, to question, and to wonder. Perhaps Atlantis is not just a lost city, but a symbol of human ambition, a haunting reminder that even the greatest civilizations can vanish, swallowed by the relentless tides of time. The search for Atlantis continues, fueled by curiosity and the hope that one day, the truth may finally surface from the depths of the unknown. For over 2 millennia, the legend of Atlantis has stirred the human imagination. Before we venture into the realm of lost civilizations and radical theories, we must first confront the prevailing consensus within the academic world. According to mainstream scholarship, Atlantis is either a complete myth, a fable crafted by Plato to convey deeper truths, or a distorted echo of real historical events, such as the catastrophic fall of the Minoan civilization. Plato's allegory theory is the most widely accepted academic view. The theory suggests that Atlantis was never meant to be taken as a literal place. Instead, it was a philosophical device, a cautionary tale embedded within Plato's dialogues Timaeus and Critias. According to this theory, Plato invented Atlantis to illustrate his views on politics, morality, and the consequences of human arrogance. Plato wrote Timaeus and Critias around 360 BCE, presenting Atlantis as a utopian civilization that became corrupt and was ultimately destroyed by the gods. However, many scholars argue that Plato's real concern was not Atlantis itself, but Athens, his idealized vision of a just and virtuous city-state. He contrasts the disciplined, enlightened Athenians with the increasingly decadent and hubristic Atlanteans, whose downfall serves as a dire warning against moral decay. Supporting this interpretation, classicists point out that Plato often employed allegory in his works. His famous allegory of the cave in the Republic used shadows on a wall to symbolize human ignorance, suggesting that his Atlantis story functioned similarly, as a metaphor rather than historical fact. Moreover, no known Greek, Egyptian, or Mediterranean text prior to Plato mentions Atlantis, suggesting it was not drawn from existing history but created for his philosophical discourse. When it comes to the evidence and scholarly opinion surrounding Atlantis, we face some significant challenges. Plato himself explicitly states in Critias that Atlantis existed 9,000 years before his time, a timeframe that places the lost city long before any known advanced civilization. But historians and scholars have questioned this claim, arguing that it's highly implausible, especially considering that no archaeological evidence has ever surfaced to support the existence of such a powerful and technologically sophisticated society from that period. Furthermore, Plato's dialogues themselves remain incomplete. Critias abruptly ends mid-sentence, leaving us with more questions than answers. And what's even more intriguing is that the supposed continuation of the story, told by Hermocrates, was never written. Some scholars speculate that this might suggest Plato never fully intended for Atlantis to be a real, historical place, and instead, it was perhaps an allegory, a cautionary tale, rather than a factual account. Adding to this uncertainty is the lack of independent corroboration. No other ancient historian, certainly not Aristotle, Plato's own student, ever referenced Atlantis as a historical reality. So, as we piece together the puzzle of Atlantis, we are left to wonder, was Plato describing a real civilization, or did he create a myth that still echoes through the ages? While this theory dominates mainstream thought, it is not without criticism. If Atlantis was purely an allegory, why did Plato go to such great lengths to describe its geography, economy, military, and political structure with meticulous detail? His account states that Egyptian priests conveyed the story to the Greek lawgiver Solon, lending it an air of legitimacy. Some researchers argue that Plato's habit of mixing historical references with allegory makes it possible that he based Atlantis on real-world inspirations, even if he exaggerated its scope. If Atlantis was not purely fictional, then what could have inspired Plato's narrative? One of the strongest mainstream theories links the Atlantis story to the Minoan civilization, which flourished on the island of Crete from approximately 3000 BCE to 1450 BCE. The Minoans were one of the most advanced Bronze Age civilizations, boasting impressive palatial architecture, extensive maritime trade networks, and sophisticated art and writing systems. They were pioneers of early European civilization, possibly one of the first true thalassocracies, or sea-based empires. However, their downfall was sudden and dramatic. Around 1600 BCE, the volcanic island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, erupted in one of the most powerful explosions in recorded history. The eruption generated tsunamis that ravaged Crete's coastline and triggered a decline in Minoan power, making them vulnerable to later conquest by the Mycenaeans. Some historians argue that the destruction of the Minoan civilization could have provided the seed for Atlantis, a flourishing island culture suddenly wiped out by cataclysmic forces. Archaeological discoveries on the Greek island of Santorini have uncovered the remains of Akrotiri, an ancient Minoan city that was tragically buried under volcanic ash in a cataclysmic eruption around 1600 BCE. This city, eerily preserved much like Pompeii, offers a remarkable snapshot of a thriving urban center, frozen in time. The advanced infrastructure, with multi-story buildings and intricate frescoes, speaks to a civilization of great sophistication. The timing of the eruption aligns loosely with Plato's story of Atlantis, though the actual timeline he provides seems to be somewhat exaggerated. Still, there are striking parallels between the eruption's aftermath and the destruction described in Atlantis myths. The Thera eruption likely triggered massive tsunamis that devastated the Minoan coastline, which could have been interpreted as the Great Flood that sank Atlantis, a devastating force of nature that forever altered the course of history for those caught in its wake. While the Minoan link is compelling, there are inconsistencies. First, Atlantis was described as an island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, widely believed to refer to the Strait of Gibraltar, placing it in the Atlantic, not the Mediterranean. The Minoans, on the other hand, lived in the Aegean Sea. Additionally, Atlantis was depicted as an expansionist, militaristic power, while the Minoans appear to have been primarily a peaceful, trade-based society. These two mainstream theories attempt to ground Atlantis in logic and history, but neither fully resolves the mystery. If it was purely a myth, why does the story persist across cultures and generations? If it was inspired by real events, why do key details contradict what we know from history and geography? Now, we venture beyond the mainstream into the realm of alternative theories, ideas that challenge conventional wisdom and propose radical possibilities. From lost continents to extraterrestrial influence, these theories attempt to uncover what might have been erased from history. However, it's important to approach them with a critical mind. These are not definitive answers, but rather speculative interpretations based on scattered evidence, myths, and unconventional research. As we explore each theory, remember, the truth may still be out there, waiting to be discovered. The first theory takes us to the Sahara Desert, to a place known as the Rikhat structure, or more famously, the Eye of the Sahara. From above, it looks almost like a cosmic eye staring up from the Earth's surface. An unusual, perfectly circular formation stretching about 30 miles across the desert landscape of Mauritania. Some researchers believe that this strange geological formation could be the remains of Atlantis itself. Plato's descriptions of Atlantis are often cited as the key to these theories, as he described Atlantis as a vast island with concentric rings of land and water. He mentioned a central plain, surrounded by mountain ranges, and a city built with extraordinary advancements in engineering, architecture, and culture. At the heart of the Rikhat structure, we see a series of concentric rings, which some argue resemble the layout Plato described in his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Its size, about 30 miles in diameter, fits the general proportions Plato attributed to Atlantis, too. The Rikhat structure's circular shape, with its alternating layers of rock and sediment, could reflect the concentric circles of land and water Plato described. The formation also lies in the exact location that some believe Plato's Atlantis would have been, off the coast of the Pillars of Hercules, modern-day Strait of Gibraltar. Although the Sahara Desert is currently arid, scientists have suggested that thousands of years ago, this area might have been lush and fertile, possibly even supporting a thriving civilization. Some researchers have pointed to the Rikhat structure's geological formation as evidence of an ancient impact crater, perhaps caused by a comet or asteroid collision. Such an event could have triggered the catastrophic destruction Plato described in his story, leading to the sinking of Atlantis beneath the waves. While mainstream geology challenges the theory, the Rikhat structure continues to be a fascinating candidate for those who believe Atlantis existed in this part of the world. But what if Atlantis wasn't buried in the desert, but beneath the frozen ice of Antarctica? This next theory suggests just that, and it might be one of the most daring and controversial of all. In the 1950s, Charles Hapgood, a professor of history, proposed a bold idea, one that would change the way we think about Earth's geological history. His theory of Earth crust displacement suggested that the Earth's crust could shift over time, causing entire continents to move. According to Hapgood, this shift could explain anomalies in Earth's ancient history, such as the sudden disappearance of Atlantis. Hapgood's theory was expanded upon by various researchers, and some began to theorize that Atlantis might be hidden under the thick ice sheets of Antarctica. Why? Because ancient maps, such as the famous Piri Reis map from the early 16th century, depict a version of Antarctica that appears to be free of ice. If the continent was once ice-free, it would have been a fertile land, potentially perfect for a thriving civilization. For those who subscribe to this theory, the key lies in the timeline of Earth's crustal displacement. If the Earth's crust shifted, Antarctica, once located closer to the equator, could have suddenly been thrust into its current position, covered by ice within a short span of time. This catastrophic event could have wiped out an advanced civilization living there, leaving no trace but a memory, Atlantis. While the idea of a rapidly shifting Earth's crust is still controversial among scientists, the theory has an undeniable appeal. What if, beneath the ice, Atlantis still lies in wait, preserved by its frozen tomb? Perhaps the advanced technology Plato spoke of was once real, thriving in a civilization that now rests under miles of ice. Now, let's shift our focus to the famous Bimini Road at Caribbean, where some claim that the remnants of Atlantis lie beneath the waves of the Bahamas. Here, off the coast of Bimini, submerged rock formations have stirred speculation about an ancient city, Atlantis itself. The Bimini Road, a series of large, rectangular stone blocks found beneath the surface of the sea near Bimini Island in the Bahamas, has been the center of controversy for decades. Some believe that these stone formations are the remnants of a once great city, perhaps the very city that Plato described. Proponents of the Bimini Road theory argue that the alignment and structure of the rocks suggest they were man-made and part of a larger cityscape, possibly the center of Atlantis itself. The Bimini Road lies near the famous Bimini Island, which has been associated with the lost city of Atlantis for centuries. Plato mentioned that Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, traditionally interpreted as the Strait of Gibraltar, leading some to believe that Atlantis may have been positioned in the Caribbean, possibly near the Bahamas. Skeptics, however, argue that the Bimini Road is nothing more than a natural formation, shaped by erosion and sea currents over time. Despite this, the mystery persists, with some suggesting that these stones could be the remains of Atlantis' once grand structures. If this theory holds any truth, Atlantis might not have sunk entirely beneath the waves, but could still lie submerged just off the coast, waiting to be uncovered. As our search for Atlantis deepens, we move into the waters surrounding the Azores Islands, located in the heart of the Atlantic Ocean, where the next theory suggests the lost city lies submerged. This chain of volcanic islands, situated roughly halfway between Europe and North America, has long been a point of interest for those who believe in the possibility of Atlantis. Could this region be the remnants of the once great island civilization Plato described? The Azores Islands, part of Portugal's territory, sit along the mid-Atlantic ridge, a vast underwater mountain range that stretches for over 10,000 miles, from the Arctic to the Antarctic. This ridge is an area of significant geological activity, and some researchers believe that Atlantis might have been part of an ancient landmass that once existed in the middle of the Atlantic, near this very ridge. In Plato's account, Atlantis was an island larger than Libya and Asia combined, which some interpret as a massive landmass that stretched far into the ocean. According to proponents of the Azores theory, the islands could be the tips of an ancient sunken civilization. As tectonic plates shifted over millennia, much of Atlantis could have been lost beneath the waves, leaving only the scattered remains that are now represented by the Azores. Further supporting this theory, the ocean floor surrounding the Azores contains signs of ancient structures, including underwater pyramids and stone formations, which some have linked to Atlantis. These structures, while still debated among scientists, fit the descriptions Plato provided of a city with advanced architecture and engineering. Could these formations be part of the remnants of an island that was once as vast and advanced as Atlantis? The Azores, with their unique geological positioning and ancient underwater structures, continue to fuel speculation about their connection to the legendary city. Next, we travel to South America, a continent with a rich history of ancient civilizations. Here, some researchers have proposed that Atlantis could be hidden not in the waters of the Atlantic, but deep within the land itself. In particular, two regions, Bolivia's Altiplano and the mysterious Amazon rainforest, have been suggested as possible locations for the lost city. The Altiplano, a vast high plateau in the Andes, is home to some of the world's most ancient and enigmatic ruins, including the famed city of Tiwanaku. This ancient site, once a thriving civilization, has long been the subject of speculation. Could it be linked to the lost city of Atlantis? Some believe that the Atlanteans were a global civilization whose influence spread far and wide, reaching the highlands of South America. In this theory, the city of Tiwanaku could be a remnant of Atlantis, an outpost of the ancient culture built atop advanced knowledge and technology. In the Amazon rainforest, some propose that the lost city of Atlantis could have been hidden beneath the dense jungle, obscured by centuries of growth and erosion. Ancient cities, now covered by vegetation and hidden from the world, have been discovered in the Amazon basin, some of which date back thousands of years. Could these cities have been part of a greater civilization? And could they be connected to Atlantis? Some researchers argue that the Atlanteans may have built cities in South America, only for them to be swallowed by time and nature. The discovery of massive geometric patterns, large earthworks, and mysterious stone structures deep in the Amazon give some credence to this theory. This theory, while speculative, fits with Plato's description of Atlantis as a powerful, far-reaching empire with influence across multiple continents. The mystery of ancient South American civilizations, combined with the region's untapped archaeological potential, makes this theory one of the most intriguing for those who believe Atlantis might have been hidden within the continent's vast landscapes. From the jungles of South America, we now turn our attention to the sunken city of Dwarka in India, where another fascinating theory takes shape. In this part of the world, an ancient, sunken city known as Dwarka has captured the imagination of many who believe it could be linked to Atlantis. According to Hindu mythology, Dwarka was a majestic city built by Lord Krishna and was once an advanced civilization, much like the city Plato described. Some speculate that the city's ruins, found underwater near the Indian coast, could be remnants of this fabled city, or even a part of the lost Atlantis itself. The city of Dwarka is mentioned in the Mahabharata, one of the oldest and most important texts in Hindu culture. According to the ancient texts, Dwarka was a city of unparalleled beauty, filled with grand palaces and advanced technologies, built by Lord Krishna himself. But as the story goes, the city eventually sank beneath the sea, consumed by a great flood, leaving only ruins in its wake. In the 1980s, marine archaeologists discovered underwater ruins off the coast of Dwarka, in the Arabian Sea, not far from the modern city of the same name. These submerged structures, which include large, stone-built formations and intricate architectural features, have been hailed as a potential link to the legendary city described in the Mahabharata. The scale and complexity of the ruins have led some to speculate that Dwarka could be a real place that sank, much like Atlantis. But the connections to Atlantis don't stop there. The ancient texts describe Dwarka's advanced technology, including machinery and weapons, and its remarkable civilization. Some who support the Dwarka Atlantis theory argue that these shared characteristics, an advanced city submerged beneath the sea, with a rich cultural history, suggest that Dwarka could be a parallel to Plato's Atlantis. Could these ancient Indian ruins be a piece of the puzzle, helping us unlock the mystery of Atlantis? Perhaps Dwarka was Atlantis, or perhaps both were part of the same global civilization, lost to time and history. The next theory takes us to a region steeped in mystery and history, the Black Sea. A body of water that has long been a subject of speculation in the search for Atlantis. Here, some believe that Atlantis was not an island far out in the ocean, but rather a thriving civilization situated along the shores of what we now know as the Black Sea. Could this once fertile and prosperous land have been submerged in a massive flood, aligning with Plato's story of Atlantis' sudden destruction? In 1997, a team of researchers led by William Ryan and Walter Pittman proposed a radical theory based on geological evidence and the history of the Black Sea. According to their findings, around 5,600 BCE, the waters of the Mediterranean Sea began to spill over into the Black Sea, flooding the previously freshwater lake and transforming it into the saltwater body we recognize today. This flood, they argued, could have been catastrophic, engulfing entire coastal civilizations that once thrived along the shores. The timing of this event is particularly compelling when we consider Plato's account of Atlantis, which he claimed was destroyed 9,000 years before his time. The Black Sea flood, occurring around 7,600 years ago, fits into the rough timeline Plato described. Could the civilization that existed in this region be the Atlantis Plato wrote about? The theory suggests that the people living near the Black Sea, with their advanced technology, cultural achievements, and architectural prowess, were caught in a sudden and catastrophic flood. Their civilization could have been wiped out, lost to history, and only remembered as the myth of Atlantis. Further supporting this theory are the ancient submerged settlements discovered along the coast of the Black Sea. Archaeological evidence shows remnants of villages that predate the flood, providing physical proof that a civilization once thrived here. Could this civilization have been Atlantis, or was it simply another culture that Plato's tale was based upon? The Black Sea flood theory challenges our understanding of ancient history, suggesting that Atlantis might not have been a distant myth, but a real civilization caught in one of Earth's most dramatic natural disasters. Next, we journey to the Mediterranean, where the small island nation of Malta offers another tantalizing theory. Malta is home to some of the world's oldest and most enigmatic megalithic structures, and many researchers believe that these ancient ruins could hold the key to the mystery of Atlantis. Could Malta have been the inspiration for Plato's tale of a lost, advanced civilization? Malta, with its unique history and collection of megalithic temples, has long been a point of fascination for those seeking Atlantis. The island is dotted with massive stone structures, including the famous Gantija temples, which predate even the pyramids of Egypt. These temples, constructed with immense stones, are a testament to the advanced engineering skills of the ancient people who built them. Could these early inhabitants have been the ancestors of the Atlanteans, or could the island itself have been the center of the legendary civilization? What makes Malta particularly intriguing in the search for Atlantis is the mystery surrounding its submerged ruins. Underwater archaeological investigations have revealed signs of ancient settlements that have been covered by the rising seas over thousands of years. Could these submerged ruins be the remnants of an advanced civilization, one that inspired the myth of Atlantis? Some researchers point to the unique alignment of the megalithic structures, suggesting that they were not just places of worship or ceremony, but part of a grand architectural plan, possibly part of a larger city. Plato's descriptions of Atlantis as a civilization with advanced knowledge of architecture, mathematics, and astronomy align closely with the kinds of achievements attributed to the people of Malta's ancient temples. Malta's position in the Mediterranean, at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, further supports the idea that it could have been a hub for a powerful civilization. Could the island have once been much larger, with a vast, thriving society, only to be lost beneath the waves? The combination of Malta's megalithic structures, its submerged ruins, and its role in the ancient world makes it a compelling candidate for the inspiration behind the Atlantis myth. The Black Sea and Malta theories offer two more fascinating possibilities in the search for Atlantis. Whether it was a civilization drowned by a catastrophic flood near the shores of the Black Sea or a magnificent island lost beneath the Mediterranean waters, both ideas challenge our understanding of ancient history and the true nature of the Atlantis myth. Could the story of Atlantis have been based on real events, natural disasters that wiped out entire civilizations? Or were they simply allegorical tales passed down through generations? As we continue to explore these theories, one thing becomes clear: the mystery of Atlantis is far from over. The search for its true location, its origins, and its fate continues to capture the imagination of researchers and dreamers alike. What do you think? Could one of these theories hold the key to unlocking the truth about Atlantis? Or is the legendary city destined to remain a myth forever? The quest for answers is far from finished, and with each new discovery, we get a step closer to unraveling the secrets of the lost city. Theories of Atlantis take an even more extraordinary turn as we venture into realms that stretch beyond the known history of humankind. Could Atlantis have been a civilization that existed long before recorded history, thriving in an era we barely understand? Some researchers propose that the lost city was not just another ancient civilization, it may have been part of a far more advanced global society, destroyed by cataclysmic floods during a time before the last ice age. One of the most intriguing and controversial voices in the search for Atlantis is Graham Hancock, a British author and researcher whose work has challenged conventional understandings of human history. In his book Fingerprints of the Gods, Hancock argues that Atlantis was part of a global civilization that flourished long before the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago. According to Hancock, this advanced civilization spanned the globe, with sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. But what happened to this remarkable society? According to Hancock and others who support this theory, it was destroyed by cataclysmic events, perhaps triggered by the sudden melting of the Ice Age glacier, flooding coastal areas, and causing massive shifts in the Earth's climate. The survivors, left to pick up the pieces of their shattered world, would have passed down the remnant of their knowledge to later civilizations, like the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and the Mayans. Hancock's view is bolstered by evidence of ancient structures around the world, structures that, according to him, could not have been built by the primitive societies we traditionally associate with those regions. Sites such as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the Great Pyramids in Egypt, and the stone ruins of South America might be the last echoes of this lost, pre-Ice Age civilization. Hancock's theory challenges the mainstream narrative of human history, suggesting that humanity once possessed advanced knowledge far earlier than we've been led to believe, and that Atlantis was the epicenter of this forgotten global empire. As we venture further into the speculative, some suggest that Atlantis wasn't just a human civilization at all, rather work of aliens. What if the story of Atlantis isn't one of human ingenuity, but rather the tale of an extraterrestrial civilization, an advanced colony, or even a race of aliens who once walked the Earth? The idea that Atlantis was an alien civilization has its roots in the broader theory of ancient astronaut hypotheses. This view suggests that advanced extraterrestrials visited Earth in the distant past, possibly leaving behind the seeds of advanced knowledge and technology. Some believe that the Atlanteans themselves were not human but were beings from another world, advanced visitors who either colonized Earth or interacted with ancient humans, bestowing them with wisdom far beyond their time. This theory draws on Plato's description of Atlantis as a civilization with remarkable technological achievements, including impressive architecture, energy sources, and the ability to manipulate the natural world. Could these abilities have been the result of extraterrestrial influence, rather than human innovation? Some proponents of this theory point to ancient structures, such as the Great Pyramid of Giza and the mysterious stone circles of the world, arguing that they contain evidence of advanced knowledge, perhaps too advanced for ancient civilizations to have created on their own. The notion that Atlantis was an extraterrestrial civilization opens up a vast array of possibilities. Were the Atlanteans the first aliens to visit our planet, or did they serve as intermediaries between Earth and otherworldly visitors? And if they were indeed alien, what became of them? Did they leave Earth, or did they perish in the cataclysmic events that destroyed Atlantis, their advanced knowledge lost forever? The alien Atlantis theory is certainly one of the most controversial, but it speaks to the tantalizing possibility that we might not be alone in the universe, and that Earth's history may be far more complex than we have imagined. Now, let's turn to a theory that connects Atlantis with one of the oldest and most enduring civilizations in human history, ancient Egypt. Some esoteric traditions claim that the knowledge of Atlantis was passed down to the Egyptian priests, who later shared it with Plato through the Greek statesman Solon. According to this theory, Atlantis and Egypt were intertwined, and the ancient Egyptians were the heirs to the wisdom of the lost city. Plato himself made mention of Solon, the Athenian lawmaker who was said to have learned about Atlantis from Egyptian priests during his travels to Egypt. According to the story, Solon was told that the Egyptians had preserved knowledge of Atlantis, a great civilization that had been destroyed long before the Greeks came into prominence. These Egyptian priests supposedly passed down the tale of Atlantis as a warning about the dangers of hubris and moral decay. Some researchers believe that this connection between Atlantis and Egypt may be more than just a story, perhaps it's evidence of a direct link between the two cultures. Egypt, with its extraordinary achievements in architecture, mathematics, and astronomy, could have inherited its knowledge from the survivors of Atlantis, who sought refuge in Egypt after their homeland was destroyed. This would explain why Egypt's civilization seemed to emerge fully formed, with advanced knowledge in so many fields. The Egyptian priesthood, who held immense wisdom, may have been the custodians of this ancient knowledge. And Plato, influenced by these teachings, could have passed down the story of Atlantis to us as a warning about the rise and fall of civilizations. Could the Egyptians have been the guardians of the secrets of Atlantis, keeping them alive through their own history and passing them down to future generations? Finally, we explore a theory that connects Atlantis to a much larger and older landmass of Lemuria, a continent that once spanned vast regions of the Earth before being swallowed by the oceans. This theory suggests that Atlantis was not an isolated island, but part of a greater landmass, much like the mythical continents of Lemuria or Mu, which are said to have existed long before modern humanity. Lemuria and Mu are two mythical lost continents that have fascinated esoteric thinkers for centuries. According to proponents of this theory, Atlantis was not just a single island, but part of a massive continent that stretched across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. As tectonic plates shifted and the Earth's crust underwent dramatic changes, this ancient landmass sank beneath the waves, taking with it the great civilization of Atlantis. The idea of a lost continent like Lemuria or Mu fits with Plato's description of Atlantis as a vast and powerful empire. Some believe that these ancient lands were once home to an advanced civilization whose knowledge of science, technology, and spirituality rivaled that of any society before or since. As these continents disappeared, they left behind only fragmented legends, tales of lost cities, sunken lands, and a civilization that fell into the ocean. Could Atlantis have been part of this larger landmass, or was it merely a separate civilization, later incorporated into the mythologies of Lemuria and Mu? The connection between these lost continents and the idea of Atlantis suggests that the Earth may have once been home to a network of interconnected, advanced cultures, all of which were swallowed by the cataclysmic events that marked the end of the last ice age. As we've journeyed through the many theories surrounding the lost city of Atlantis, exploring everything from ancient civilizations to alien influence, from submerged continents to cosmic cataclysms, it's clear that the mystery of Atlantis is far from solved. So far, we have explored the prevailing theories about Atlantis, examining various possibilities regarding its existence and location. Now, let's turn our focus to the search itself, how explorers, archaeologists, and scientists have attempted to find Atlantis over the centuries. For centuries, scholars, adventurers, and archaeologists have scoured the globe in search of Atlantis. While Plato's descriptions were vague and metaphorical, many took them as historical clues, attempting to match his account with real-world locations. The 19th century marked the beginning of this search and saw the first systematic efforts to locate Atlantis, fueled by advances in archaeology and a growing fascination with lost civilizations. One of the earliest proponents was the American politician and writer Ignatius Donnelly. In 1882, Donnelly published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, a book that argued Atlantis was a highly advanced civilization that influenced cultures worldwide before a catastrophic event submerged it. Donnelly's work laid the foundation for modern Atlantis theories, linking it to real-world archaeological sites and proposing that Atlanteans had spread their influence across ancient Egypt, Mesoamerica, and even Europe. During the same period, several expeditions were conducted in the Mediterranean, particularly around Crete and Santorini. Some scholars speculated that Atlantis could be connected to the Minoan civilization, which had mysteriously declined around 1600 BCE after the eruption of the Thera volcano. However, no definitive evidence was found linking Minoan ruins to Plato's account. As archaeology evolved into a more rigorous scientific discipline in the 20th century, the search for Atlantis became more methodical, though still often speculative. Early in the century, German archaeologist Adolf Schulten proposed that Atlantis was located in Spain, particularly in the region of Tartessos, an ancient Iberian trading hub known for its wealth. Despite extensive excavations, no conclusive evidence of an Atlantean civilization was uncovered. Meanwhile, in the 1930s, the Greek archaeologist Spyridon Marinatou suggested that the destruction of the Minoan civilization could be linked to the Atlantis myth. His theory gained traction in the 1960s when marine archaeologists began uncovering significant Minoan ruins on Santorini, revealing that a catastrophic volcanic eruption had buried the city of Akrotiri in a manner reminiscent of Plato's descriptions. In the mid-20th century, Russian scientists also joined the search. Soviet oceanographers, using early deep-sea technology, surveyed the mid-Atlantic ridge, hypothesizing that Atlantis might have been part of a now-submerged landmass. These efforts, however, produced no definitive findings. The 21st century ushered in a new era of Atlantis exploration, equipped with cutting-edge technology that allowed researchers to scan the ocean floor and analyze previously inaccessible regions. Today, satellite imaging plays a crucial role in the search for Atlantis. Researchers analyze aerial and satellite photographs to identify anomalies in oceanic and coastal landscapes that may indicate the remnants of an ancient city. Some have pointed to underwater formations near the Bahamas, particularly the Bimini Road, an underwater rock formation that some claim is the remnants of an ancient road or harbor. Advanced sonar mapping and LiDAR, light detection and ranging, have also been deployed in suspected locations, including the submerged regions off the coasts of Spain, Morocco, and the Caribbean. These tools have helped identify submerged structures and lost cities, though none have been conclusively linked to Atlantis. Deep-sea archaeology has provided fascinating insights into lost civilizations, but it has yet to yield definitive evidence of Atlantis. The discovery of the submerged city of Pavlopetri off the coast of Greece in 1967 demonstrated that advanced civilizations did exist in the Mediterranean before Plato's time. However, these findings, while significant, do not match the grandeur described in Plato's dialogues. In 2009, a Spanish team led by geologist Richard Freund conducted research in the marshlands of Doñana National Park, Spain. Using ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery, they identified circular formations resembling Plato's descriptions of Atlantis' concentric city layout. While intriguing, mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, attributing the formations to natural geological processes or Roman ruins. The use of autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, and remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, has revolutionized oceanic exploration. Scientists have used these tools to survey the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the Azores, and the Caribbean. One of the most notable discoveries was a series of symmetrical stone formations off the coast of Cuba in 2001, which some claim to be an ancient city. However, experts remain divided, with many believing the formations to be natural rather than man-made. The question here is, why is finding Atlantis so difficult? Despite centuries of exploration and modern advancements, the search for Atlantis remains one of the greatest mysteries of archaeology. Several fundamental challenges hinder the quest for definitive proof. One of the primary difficulties is the absence of direct evidence. No inscriptions, artifacts, or records from Plato's time or earlier reference Atlantis beyond his dialogues. Unlike other lost civilizations, such as Troy or Pompeii, which have verifiable historical and archaeological evidence, Atlantis remains a legend without physical corroboration. Another major challenge is the impact of shifting sea levels over thousands of years. If Atlantis did exist and was submerged, rising and falling ocean levels, tectonic shifts, and sediment accumulation could have either buried its remains deep underwater or eroded them beyond recognition. Many proposed locations, such as the Caribbean and Mediterranean, have undergone dramatic geological transformations since Plato's era. Finally, separating myth from reality poses a significant hurdle. Plato's descriptions may have been allegorical rather than historical, meaning Atlantis could have been a philosophical construct rather than a real place. While some believe he based his account on real events, such as the destruction of the Minoan civilization, others argue that Atlantis was purely symbolic, representing the dangers of hubris and the decline of great civilizations. The search for Atlantis continues to captivate scholars and explorers alike. While modern technology has provided new tools to investigate submerged landscapes, no definitive evidence has yet emerged. Whether Atlantis was a real civilization lost to time or a powerful allegory remains one of history's most tantalizing enigmas. As new technologies and discoveries push the boundaries of archaeology, perhaps one day, the mystery will finally be solved, or Atlantis will remain forever lost beneath the waves. If you enjoyed this exploration, make sure to subscribe to our channel, where we continue to uncover the most fascinating secrets from the ancient world and beyond. Stay tuned, because the search for Atlantis, and the mysteries of our past, are far from over.